many celebrities that have autistic children that want to participate with this. We look forward to entering the market with endorsements and strategic alliances from a prominent hospital as well as a medical company. All right, so one question is, how does it work? Basically, we have pictures of the disease. We make a 3D facial picture of the disease. Mom sends us her pictures, and we use pattern recognition and advanced matching techniques so that we can decide and figure out the probability that what we're really looking for is the biomarkers. The biomarkers are those distinguishing features of the face that tell you that you have the disease. Okay. The likelihood of a positive diagnosis is derived from statistical comparisons of the matches. What we need to do is make the face of the disease. Okay, so that's one of the key things that we work on. To do that, we take 25 to 30 individual 3D scans of children with the same syndrome, and then just like you've seen on TV, we morph them together to make the face of the syndrome. We then use this face to compare it to the faces that mom sends us of her children. Okay. It sounds simple enough. But a word about the barriers to entry. Okay. Assembling the necessary team to get this technology to work is a daunting task. We need expertise in 3D imaging, advanced modeling, stitching, pattern recognition, and matching. At a minimum, we have a large jump on everyone else. For the use of the funds, I'm going to have to go quickly on behind. One of the key expenditures is collecting the 3D pictures of 108 children necessary to have the system. In terms of the financial assumptions, if we look at this, we've been very conservative about the shares that we use in our predictions, and one of the things to look at is the extremely high gross margin that this business has. It's going to be extremely profitable. Quickly looking at the corporate management, I'll skip myself. David DeMuth is a senior managing director with CFO Consulting Partners. He has held senior positions with KPMG, PepsiCo, Kodak, and Continental Grain Company. Dr. Rust, my partner, he owns a consumer research firm with a stunning list of clients. It includes Lego, McDonald's, it goes on and on. The board of directors includes a banker, a publisher of Working Mother, and the president of Listerwell, which is a large back office. And the advisory board. Okay, I'd like to point out this is a world-class advisory board, even for the doctors here in the New York City area. Dr. David Arts is the medical director of systems operations at MSKCC. He has a special interest in this project, and he's giving us a lot of help. That's because 2 of his children have autism. I'm sure there must be questions, and that's why we're here. All right. Questions? Richard?
So Miles, can you talk a little bit about like your background and kind of how you got to this particular company?
All right. I'm a technologist. Okay. I've been consulting and building enterprise applications for the Wall Street firms for quite some time. One of my claims to fame is building the largest consolidated aggregated database that housed all of the transactions for Wachovia, First Union, Merrill, and Chase. I am a systems builder by trade. My previous life included that I was a producer for Sony. I have a lot of experience with media. I built actually the production studios for ABC Radio. I'm probably leaving out a bunch of stuff. I was a math major. That's how some of the statistical stuff got figured out. And I run my own consulting firm, and what I do basically now as a consultant is either build people's networks, expand, modernize them, get rid of legacy systems, put in new stuff, things like that.
So how did you get into the medical world in this concept?
One of my clients had the person who has the back office had somebody who worked there, and basically they were a filmmaker. And it comes basically from security. So what happened was that she filmed for the NIH, children with genetic disorders. And her goal was to show doctors what these genetic disorders look like, because they didn't always see them, so that they could, in fact, then make diagnoses. We tried an experiment in Beth Israel Hospital, where we showed some of the film without fancy attaching to the internet and all of that. And what she asked me to do was to build her an application that could make it so the doctors could log on, put in some descriptive stuff, and up would come the right videos. She would follow children for their lifespan. She would make a 15-minute film every 15 minutes for the span of life of these kids with genetic disorders. What I discovered when I was working on it is that everybody was looking at the face, and the whole thing was about the face. And because for the banks, I had put in some high security system that used facial recognition, it dawned on me to meld the two together, to use what I knew about security and facial recognition, to use it to model and use it to detect diseases. What I discovered was, like at an airport, if you put 17 points on your face, they can figure out who you are. Well, you can't figure out a genetic disorder. One of the things that we've done is we figured out, this is a pattern, we're going to have to put 80,000 points on your face. So our resolution is unbelievably high, and it lets us look for what they call dysmorphic disfigurations of the face that you cannot see with your naked eye. But if you have that kind of resolution, you can do it. That dawned on me right away. And then it was a couple of years of working out exactly how to do it.
Okay, last question.
You talked about it being 90% accurate. Can you speak to false positives?
Well, you're basically 10% inaccurate. So your false positives are going to be 1% of the time you're going to be telling people that they don't have it when they do, and 9% the other way. But this is, compared to what goes on today, if you ask two of these sets of interviewers and you do a blind study with them, it's done on a scoring system, a terrible scoring system. They go, am I looking at you or am I not looking at you? And the metrics for this stuff is terrible. I reviewed the numbers. They only match a score. You need a score above 60 for the CARS test. They only match 2/3 of the time. So whatever they're telling you, we're not a little bit better. We're phenomenally more accurate. This is actually a scientific test. The other is subjective. We're objective.
All right, so I'm going to reverse myself, realizing we have a biological scientist in the audience. John, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, I recognize the power of this. Obviously, craniofacial development is highly correlated with neuronal development, so that's great. But I have substantial concerns, including one, this is actually diagnosing a disease. You didn't mention FDA. Two, you had numbers of 108 and 25, whereas your the autism spectrum disorder diseases that you mentioned at the beginning are 1 out of 20,000, 1 out of 2,000, etc. You had no ROC curves, and you mentioned patentable once, and you have no IP listed there.
Right. Well, we're at a very early stage. We're still in the trade, the trade secret part, moving into it. Those other ones that were rare were just examples. What we're doing is we're going to go after autism because it's 1 in 100. This is just to say that if we had 108 kids with Williams syndrome, it would work for that.
I'm sorry, meaning you need 108. You need to scan 108 children to be able to.
No, I need to scan 108 children who were diagnosed with the same syndrome.
To create the map of that syndrome.
So you don't have an ROC curve, receiver operator characteristic for any disease, is that correct?
I'm not sure. I think I would have to refer that question to Dr. Arts. I'm not sure that I can answer that.
And what about that is simply the specificity of the test? How many false positives, how many false negatives? What about the FDA? You're not treating, you're diagnosing diseases.
Well, what it's going to be is it's going to be a screen, okay? Diagnosis is made by doctors, all right? So what this is going to do, it's going to be for mom to shortcut the process that she normally gets when she goes to a doctor, where she says, my kid has some problems, and then they get tested for a wide variety of things. So in terms of the FDA, there's 3 levels of it. Okay, there is invasive, there's minimally invasive, and then there's us that's non-invasive. And not only that, not only are we non-invasive, we don't even have a device, because the device belongs to mom. So technically, okay, the FDA in this country does not go after algorithms. In Canada, they do. So we will use part of the financing for the, part of the $1 million of the first round to do trials with Health Target Incorporated, so that we can get FDA approval at the very lowest level. It turns out that, in talking to them, they really don't govern us. We're kind of a little bit in no man's land.
Okay, thank you, Miles.